Too nice for us.
How are you doing?
Good. We got a 20 or 25-year lease.
All right, it's 2 o'clock, 2:02 actually, so we shall get started. Call the meeting to order. We'll do a call of members.
Foster Sawyer.
Here.
Dan Richer.
Here.
Orland Paulson.
Here.
Laverne Cook.
Here.
Robert Akers.
Here.
Tim Rogers.
Here.
Chuck Jasper.
Here.
Sandra Bashara. Steve Hasenorl.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, the next item is approval of agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to remove the new business from the agenda because technically this is our last official meeting as a board. The December meeting is supposed to be for bills only. And 4/5 of the board will be rolling over in January, and we could talk about this in January.
Which item?
Oh, both the new business. I think we got time to talk about the hydrology conference before time runs out.
I actually have things planned for the strategic planning, so I had planned to move forward with
Well,
that.
I'm
So
requesting,
okay.
hydrology conference. remove that.
I think we have an individual here that was going to speak on that.
That would be me.
But if you'd like to make a motion to move those, you, okay.
We got people sitting here.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for the Western South Dakota Hydrology Conference to move that item up in deference to our guest here, not make her wait 2 hours to get to that, to just above administrative items, I believe.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay. Looking for a second?
I'll second it.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any other changes to the agenda?
So where's it going?
Just above, right before administrative items. All right. There's no other items. Could we get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve. As amended? As amended.
As amended.
Second.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. All right.
For clarification, everybody voted for the amendment? Everybody approved the amendment, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, next item is approval of the minutes of the meeting. Maybe we'll open it up for any questions or comments. Is the best thing to do. Anybody have questions or comments on the minutes? All right, not seeing any, so maybe we'll entertain a motion, see if we can get a motion to approve the minutes.
Does anybody need coffee?
I'll make that motion
Okay.
to approve.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from Director Sawyer.
Second.
Second from Orland. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I abstained. I wasn't present during the entire meeting.
Okay. All right. That brings us to, before we go into administrative items, we have the Western South Dakota Hydrology Conference request for keynote speaker funding. And can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I'm Dr. Kelly McCormick, and I'm in the mining engineering department at South Dakota School Mines. And I'm also on the organizing committee for the Western Hydro Conference. And as noted here, we are requesting $4,000 for our keynote speaker this year. It says, John T. Laux, Distinguished Lecturer, and Mr. Laux was a board member, as I have noted here, with the board. And I know that historically you've provided funding for this kind of speaker. Rob Harmon is the gentleman we'd like to bring in. He is a CEO of Energy RM. He is expert in energy and natural resource policy. And we feel that he really speaks to the theme of the meeting this year, which is reliability, vulnerability, and resiliency for the Western Hydro Conference. As you know, the Hydro Conference is in line with much of what your mission statement is. It provides a forum for scientists, the general public, students, government employees, and entities to be involved and have a discussion on the present knowledge of water resources in the region. And so we make this request. So I'm open to any questions you might have. I would like to point out that Mr. Harmon, that 4,000 covers everything. So it covers his travel, his hotel, and an honorarium. And it's typically with many of these speakers, these high-profile speakers that you bring in, they ask for $12,000 or more for their honorarium. So we feel that he's really being generous with his time.
I do have a question, Dr.
Sure.
McCormick, and that is that I'm somewhat familiar with Mr. Harmon or Dr. Harmon, and it's a really interesting concept because what he's talking about is having private industry basically buy credits to put water back in the trees.
Right.
I was wondering if you could speak to that. I think that really speaks to this board.
Right. It's really, thank you. It's really interesting because you all probably know much more about it than I do about water rights. It's a big issue in the West. And there are the senior water rights owners who basically have to either use it or lose it, right? So this is not a situation in which promotes any kind of water conservation system because, you know, you can't lose your senior water rights. Those are vital to what you do. Rob Harmon comes in with some real out-of-the-box thinking on how to approach this, and that includes such suggested policy changes as paying the farmers or ranchers to, instead of using that water by taking it out of the river, use that water, they're exercising their water rights to keep it in the river so that the rivers continue to flow through the year, provide environments for fish and other natural habitat for birds and reptiles and all that. And also in addition to that, he gives an example of the beer industry, something like you need 4 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of beer, some similar equation such as that. And for the industry to actually buy these water credits from the senior rights owners, senior water rights owners. So what we really like about Mr. Harmon is that, or Dr. Harmon, is that he's bringing in some real new ideas on how to deal with some very, very old issues that affect all of us.
Thank you.
When is the conference?
The conference is April 15th, which I believe this year is a Wednesday, and it's the 13th annual conference.
When do you need to have a decision made on whether or not, or when funding for this is to occur?
Well, I'm not sure if we have a deadline for that, as far as the decision. I think the bottom line, the bottom line is that I think we're committed to bring this gentleman in because I think he really speaks to what we want to talk about at the conference. But there's a trade-off down the line because if we can't get that subsidized, then we'll probably have to raise some costs of the conference, the next year to compensate for that cost that we had not budgeted. So this is something that we had not budgeted in the past to do, and so that's probably the situation now. So we don't necessarily have a deadline per se.
Any other questions from the board members?
The total cost is $4,000?
Yes, it is. So that includes, if he wants to take a fancy jet out here and stay at a fancy hotel, it's all in the $4,000. It's not on us. So anything that he has not spent on the trip will go to his honorarium.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this till January.
Got a motion on the floor to postpone to January.
Second?
Got a second to postpone to January? Trying to remember my point of order. Do we open it up for
Any
questions?
discussion?
For discussions first. I thought I meant to do that with those first two or three. We got a motion and a second. Let's open it up for discussion.
I think the previous comments that, 4/5 of us are going to be gone, I for one will not be here. And I guess I'm not comfortable committing a future board to such an expense. This is taxpayer money that, I'm not comfortable personally committing that amount of money that a future board is going to be spending for doing this. That's not a comment on whether or not it's a valid expense. I'm just not comfortable making that commitment. And that's why I seconded the motion, and if the motion had been made, I would have made it.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, there's no further comments. Let's make, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Well,
We better do a roll call.
Okay, so a yes vote is in favor of postponing until January. A no vote is, keeps it open for further discussion. Akers,
Yes.
Hasenauer,
Yes.
Jasper,
Yes?
Cook,
No.
Paulson,
No.
Richer,
Yes.
Rogers,
No.
Sawyer.
No.
It is a tied vote,
Point of order?
so
Didn't we previously rule the chairman doesn't vote unless there's a tie?
no.
No?
Ah,
Okay,
Policy says that all board members get a vote,
okay. So we have a tie.
So we have a
so
tie.
we have a tie. So
If it's a tie, it failed then, didn't it?
it fails, but we are able to bring it back up for discussion, and I have to, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Commissioner on the point of order.
If someone makes a motion to, or gives notice of intent to reconsider, that will make it eligible to be brought up anytime during the agenda or the next meeting.
For the next meeting. Motion of intent to reconsider would,
During this meeting.
motion of intent to reconsider would open it back up for discussion.
You don't need a motion, just some board member just said, I give notice of intent to reconsider.
Okay. I'll give notice of intent to reconsider.
Okay, so we got a notice of intent to reconsider, so
Which budget would it be coming out of?
You can take it up
This year's or
anytime.
next?
You can take it out of either year's budget. If you look in your board packet, it will reflect that at this point, the total unobligated is, for this year, is 180. May I
Since-
make a comment?
yes.
Okay. I'd just like this board to consider that postponing anything and everything until the next board, you are still board members. You are still board members that are supposed to be representing the Water Development District and withholding and enhancing the mission of that district. So just because you are going off this board and there's a new board coming up, that does not negate your obligation to the Water Development District at this point.
Thank you. Does somebody want to make an alternate motion or another motion to address this, to address it? I think where I'm trying to go with this is to see if we want to address it or if it's going to be pushed to the next meeting. So this is probably the time to address it.
Entertain a motion to,
I move we defer further discussion on the matter till the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to defer to the next meeting, and we got a second. Open for discussion.
I think we've had a lot of discussion on it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So next meeting would be the one in December or the one in January?
December.
December.
December. Okay, any
Call the
further discussion?
question.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor to defer to the next meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call.
That would be the December one we're talking about.
Motion to
Yeah.
defer to December. A yes vote would move the motion to December's agenda. A no vote keeps it open for discussion. Rogers,
No.
Hasenauer,
Yes.
Paulson,
No.
Jasper,
Yes,
Cook,
No.
Sawyer,
No.
Richard,
Yes.
Akers.
No.
The motion to defer to December has failed.
Okay. So I'll go back to, do we want to act on this today? Somebody want to make a motion to approve or amend or
I'll make a motion to approve.
approve the 4,000?
Yes.
Okay. So we got a motion on the floor to approve 4,000.
Second.
Got a second. Let's open up for discussion. If we need any more.
And Orland, you seconded?
Yes.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, let's do a roll call vote.
Okay, a yes vote will approve the $4,000 stipend for the keynote speaker. A no vote will, is against sponsoring the keynote speaker. Akers,
Yes.
Hasenauer,
No.
Jasper,
no,
Cook,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Richard,
No.
Rogers,
Yes.
Sawyer.
Yes.
All right.
5-3 motion passed.
Passes 5-3. That's approved. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item on business is payment of bills and transfers of funds. Denise, do you want to review and go over those for us?
I will answer any questions anyone has. Just for clarification, the $10 to me is in July, the board voted to create a specific account for the Canyon Lake Restoration Project and to have it completely separate from our other accounts, so it's very clear that the money that we get for the Canyon Lake Project goes into a completely different account. And in talking to our bank, they said the best way to do that is to go to the Secretary of State's website and set up a fictitious account. I know it sounds shady, it's not, but, so basically, what we did is we created an account specifically called Canyon Lake Restoration Project. And in order to do that, I had to use a credit card to pay the $10 for that account. That's all that is.
And I gave her approval to do that. She called up and asked, so.
I got a couple of questions. On Sandra, regular board meeting and travel,
Oh, she doesn't get travel.
she doesn't get travel?
She requested, this has been ongoing for years, that she does not get travel, she just gets the stipend. That's an option that she has waived the mileage portion, and, but Steve does get travel, so that should be changed in there. So just like Foster doesn't take any stipend or travel.
Laverne,
Yeah, I know.
$19.
Laverne,
That was a cheap trip, wasn't it? What's the 19 for?
maybe I just don't feel like paying it. Good eye.
So you had a question on the travel, and is that what you're looking for, Denise?
No.
That's supposed to be 119.
That's a little more like.
The check is right, the town is not, so please
Okay.
make that total 19,333.46.
So did that changes the bottom line then, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
$19,333.46.
I had a question on the publishing, and Denise clarified it before the meeting, and we still are paying for public notices and for paying for the minutes to the meetings here. She's still trying to run through and get questions answered with the state on the applicability of those rules as far as what we have to do and don't do. So we're going to continue on doing that until we get a clear answer, so we're not violating those laws.
Basically, until South Dakota codified law is changed, or, there are some things that just needed to be clarified. And I did send a note to the Legislative Research Council stating the questions that we have, the concerns and clarifications, so, but we haven't heard.
Do we know, what's that codified law?
I'm sorry,
Do you
what?
have that codified law?
Well, there are two different areas of codified law that it addresses. It's 127-1.17, and that is discussing draft meetings as public meetings. And basically says unapproved draft meetings of any public meeting held pursuant to 125-1 are required to be kept by law shall be made available for inspection by any person within 10 business days after the meeting. It does not apply if an audio-video recording of the meeting is available on public governing body website within 5 business days. So it doesn't clarify if they still need to be published, if they need to be sent to the paper. And then the other codified law is 46A-3D-3, which basically states that you have to mail the draft minutes to the paper, but it doesn't say anything about do they need to be published. It says that they have to be mailed to the legal paper. So do we have to publish them, just mail them? But, and if we do have an audio-video recording, then do we still have to make put the draft minutes out there?
Yep, so it's somewhat fuzzy.
Yeah.
So we're
I
just
just
complying with
wondered.
what we feel we need to until we get some good answers, or they modify it and change it. Any other questions on the budget items?
Yes, I assume mine is for September meeting, board and travel.
I'm guessing it is too.
You just,
Yes,
Not just a bribe.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, we'll make that correction.
This is not a bribe. Put that in there.
Dan, did you have another question?
yeah. The Secretary of State fictitious account, check number 1163, and the 2014 annual dues for South Dakota Association of Rural Water is check number 1163. So what is that supposed to be, 66?
Mine is 60. Yeah, I'll correct that.
Okay. All right, no, good catch.
Get up your bone drill.
Any other questions? All right, looking for a motion to approve, unless there's any public questions or comments.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Got a second from Aker. Open it up for discussion. I think we kind of hashed that out with the board. Any comments or questions from the public on our bills? All right. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right. Rich, you're opposed? Everybody else approved? All right. Next item is 2015 meeting schedule. and I'm going to have Denise explain the method to the madness. I think she talked about this last time, but we'll go through it, and we're looking for action to approve it.
So once again, it's been the third Wednesday every other month, except it's always been that at the end of the month, at the end of the year, we end up having a meeting in November, in December, and then again in January. So if we modify the schedule where we have just change our budget hearing, which is usually now in September, to August, it does two things. It helps us get our information into the county sooner, which they would love and adore us for. And then it breaks it up so that we don't have those 3 back-to-back meetings, especially around the holidays. Instead, we'll have back-to-back meetings July and August, and then December, January. So it's just a little tweak. This mimics the Vermilion Water Basin schedule. They do it. It seems to work well for them. So.
Anybody have any comments on the schedule?
I would like to continue this until January, since they'll be the ones coming to the board meeting.
And I guess we've talked in the past about changing our whole schedule around, looking at having shorter meetings and having them every month, changing location. I think that's something that needs to be considered by the future board as well. And consequently, I think Dan's comments about having the new board in January address it, I think is very important. I think they should
Jasper,
really
can you
address it.
Jasper, you seconded the motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got a motion to push to this decision till January and a second, so let's open for discussion and continue on, please.
Yep, that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? I can somewhat agree with that. It's going to be the new board's decision, and we were set for January anyway, so we can set those other dates if they agree to it. So at that time. Any
Yeah,
other
I think
comments?
It's a good idea, it's just, I don't think we should be making that decision.
No, it's fine. Any other comments? All right. Hearing no more, let's, all in favor to push it to January for this decision, all say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimous. That one's taken care of. All right, we're going to go move on to old business and the Rapid Creek Clean Water Initiative. I didn't see Dave here, so are you going to discuss that?
So Dave is out of town for the rest of the week. Basically, we had 2 meetings. On October 21st, we met and presented the Clean Water Initiative to the county. And then later that evening, we had a community meeting in Dakota and had a really good turnout. And the residents that showed up, first of all, they said that had they known earlier, they probably would have had more people there. The effort to get the information out, we didn't know, we used West Dakota's mass email. Laverne got out there and spread the word. But there is really a concern with the water quality and quantity down in the Dakota area. Many of the landowners are just, we actually thought they felt relieved that somebody was paying attention and looking at this issue, because they really didn't think that they had any options. So they would really like to see something move forward with this Clean Water Initiative and having those TMDLs. One of the property owners indicated that he had to drill a well away from the creek just because the water quality gets so bad during storm events, and so to water his cattle. I mean, the water quality is so bad that the cattle won't drink it. So anyway, it does warrant concern. So the residents really are in support of this. But what we thought, and this was with North Water Consulting, that the best avenue would actually be to seek Pennington County's support with the project, and then hopefully that would carry enough weight to get Rapid City. Rapid City doesn't seem to be very interested in moving forward with this project right now. They don't really have a driver for it. But I think if we have the county and the community really supporting this project, that would encourage Rapid City to participate more. So I guess at this time, we would like to just move forward with seeking a letter of support from the county.
I think that, Laverne, you were there. You guys got any comments on what you heard and what
There's a lot
your
of people
takeaways?
there. Seemed like they were really interested in doing something.
I think the people in that, if every one of the people that live out there would have been there, our opinion would have still been the same. They really want to see something done. So, and I think if they could get together with the city somehow or other, I think this is a project that really be worthwhile.
I think the jury's still out on the city. I think we still need to have quite a few contacts and meetings with them. The initial contacts with the public works people, they came to our meetings and they were open up and they're listening. They haven't bought into it yet, but I think there's an educational process on our end and on their end, and that's what Northwater's still going to continue to do with the product they're going to give to us. And something I'm going to talk about a little bit on our strategic planning is that piece of the Rapid Creek 319 project and how we go about that. I think we were, not to jump ahead into that, but our thing is to get educational for us and then have them build a little plan of what was going on and then build an RFP, request for proposal, to send out to get a contractor to run with it. But I'm not sure and this will probably be pushed back to January, but we're going to have to sit back in January and the next couple meetings, and it may be more than a year before we decide on this, because I still have a million questions on what the problem is and how we fix it and how we go about it. And my assumption is the city's kind of in that boat too. They don't want to jump in yet until we figure out exactly what we're doing. So, and that just takes communication and some meetings.
Sure.
And
Well,
so.
the first portion of the project that Northwater is proposing is the RFP. The proposal would be to go out for the project itself, or not the project. It wouldn't be like implementing the best management projects, but it'd be go out and analyze what projects would be beneficial and what projects would mitigate the TMDLs and the quantity and quality issues in the lower Rapid Creek. So the first part of the project is actually going out there I think they gave their cost estimate for the planning process would be $200,000. If you go after 319 funds, we'd have to come up with $80,000 of cash, whether, local contributors, county, West Dakota, whomever. And with that, then you develop the plan. In that plan, you would identify the projects that would be the best management projects to alleviate that. We also have USGS that is really interested in partnering with this, because there would be a great monitoring component. So we could actually monitor before, during, and after to see how these best management practices have affected the project itself and lowered the TMDLs.
Does anyone know if they have any community organization out in this area that can speak for what their concerns are?
They said that they would be very willing to sign a petition, to work with us to sign a petition, to send a letter to the city, to the county, whatever they can do to help move this project forward.
Well,
So
when you say they, are we talking about individuals or a specific
Individuals.
group?
They would like to have another meeting and
So-
go ahead with its petition or whatever it would take.
Well,
But everybody, if we had a petition that night, everybody that was there would have signed it.
Oh, yeah.
They also said that we could leave the petition at the computer store, the post office, and get people to sign the petition that way.
Sure, well, I'm just thinking sometimes if you have a group that is representing a specific area of people, that sometimes, that can
Right.
represent them, that sometimes speaks louder than just a petition.
I have a feeling that this community they would show up in large masses
At
to
every
any
meeting.
county or city meeting to speak on this. They were really
I'm sure they would.
that vested in
Well,
seeing
that's
something
important.
done.
So the suggestion at this point is to write,
Proceed with a letter asking the county for a letter of support for the project.
yeah. Yeah, and I think along with that, as we continue on with Dave and his group approaching the city with the money that we paid them to do that, so, and then work to the proposal. So it's an ongoing process.
Right.
I just don't feel that we've had to I got to make some contacts myself with the city, and I know that he's going to continue doing it too, so. But no, I think that's a good idea. So,
Can I propose that we to find out if he's gonna charge a section or not, but put Northern on the January, agenda to bring the new members up to speed on just exactly what's going on with this, where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going?
are you making a suggestion to have Dave come kind of redo everything?
As long,
I will ask Northwater to be on the January
yeah,
agenda.
if he's not gonna charge us for it.
Yeah. I think that's part of what we're paying him for, so.
Well, I do too, but I
That's
don't
okay.
sure, there's a lot,
Okay.
well, that's an extra meeting,
Yeah.
$500 for that.
No, understood.
So,
No, we can.
that's what I think it,
I don't think that takes a motion. I think we can just do
yeah,
that.
that's what
so.
I'm
Right.
suggesting. And the other thing is, the county, the new EPA guy for the county was presented to the commissioners at the last meeting, so they now have a EPA bureaucrat on staff, so. I don't recall his name, now I can't remember half of you guys' name. But he's in planning and zoning, it's a small office, half as big as it was, so not gonna be hard to find him.
Did he replace somebody?
Yeah, I guess they had a hole there for a while.
Okay. All right, good information. Just looking, entertaining a motion to seek some Pennington County support for the project.
I'll make a motion. Letter, send the letter?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll make that.
Second. All right, got a motion from Laverne, second from Orland to send the letter. Open for discussion?
Okay, I got a question, what if we get a letter of support? And they send it back and they say, okay, we support. Now what?
At that particular point, what that would mean is we'd meet with them, and hopefully we get other people supporting too, the city as well, and that would go into working with the RFP that we're putting together with our contract with Northwater, and that RFP, request for proposal, goes out to contractors. Northwater would apply, and some other people would apply, and then we would set, we would identify who gets the contract, select after we interviewed them, and at that point, they would go through 319 funds, and this entire
Actually,
group.
I think the 319 funding application would go in first, and that would be due October 1.
So at this point, the letter is just gonna say, hey, we invite you to come together and talk to us,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's all.
At this point, with the intention that we were looking for monetary support through the 319
Yeah,
program.
just the intention, because I mean,
Yeah, because they could say yes or no once they,
well, I
So,
understand that,
so.
yeah. I just wanna make sure we're not committing, we're not gonna commit to $200,000, for whoever takes that contract on the RFP.
Oh, no, definitely, we'd vote on it at that point, but the intent is to bring in as many people as we can that are
I don't have a
impacted.
problem with that.
Okay. All right, any more discussion? All right, hearing none. Anybody from out in public?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak on this matter.
Okay,
Tina Mullally.
thank you.
I was at that meeting in Dakota, and in speaking with a lot of the ranchers I saw and spoke to, they were confused about what was going on. Not so much as being absolutely on board with everything. That's why they asked for another meeting. A lot of them had no idea the meeting was going on. They were not contacted regarding that meeting. There was actually a private individual that contacted about 75% of the people that did show up. So I can't allow, without objecting to stating that the notices that were sent out was why there was so many people there. In speaking with them on a private level, most of the people that were there because of a private individual showing them that there was going to be a meeting. And while that meeting was informative to a degree, many of what the ranchers that were there that I spoke with were confused, very confused about what actually the whole water initiative was all about. And so I just wanted it on record that there is another point of view stating that it wasn't all cut and dry, as it was mentioned earlier this evening. It was confusion. That's why they've asked for another meeting.
I think you reinforced the intention for another meeting. So
Yes.
I think there's going to need to be a lot of meetings with a lot of
Yes,
groups. So no, we're gonna work our way through that. Appreciate your comments.
you're welcome, sir.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none. There's a motion and a second on the table to proceed with the letter of support, requesting a letter of support from the county on the Rapid City Clean Water Initiative. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. And I would assume that letter will be drafted and then we'll have it at the December meeting, maybe? Potentially? Maybe?
I think what the intention was to try to get the letter to the county so that we can proceed with the, seeking the city's support as well. But if you want to present it at the next meeting, you can definitely do that.
Maybe we should talk about that. What does everybody think? Do you want that letter approved or should we just trust that staff can put that together and send it? I'm okay with that, so.
I think do it.
Do it?
Waste a lot of time going back and forth. I think we know what we want to do. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think so. We're just looking for support. We're really not, beyond that, there's really no other action taken on it at this point on there. So I'd be comfortable with the administration getting a letter out. There's really no commitment other than asking for support is what we're doing.
Okay.
I agree. How about you, Chuck?
I don't care.
Is everybody good with that? I don't think we have to make a motion. I think it was kind of clear. It should be a simple letter, so. All right, not unless anybody has any contention or doesn't want to, that's how we'll proceed. So, all right. I thought that we better bring that up in case, so. All right, okay, update on Canyon Lake. That's me. Where we're at with Canyon Lake, I think everybody's kind of aware of it, but just for the public's purpose, I'll kind of give just a quick overview of where we're at. They're working on, it's empty and dry. They're still having problems with, Pactola was drawn down and they were trying to draw Pactola down to, so that they could have a really low flow coming into Rapid and so they could divert it through the bypass. What happened with all the rain and all the moisture this past year, they had all the springs were still feeding into Pactola and it came back up. So right now they're in the process of running high flows out of Pactola and the contractors are dealing with trying to divert the water around the dam so they can tear the dam out and build the new dam this winter. And with that said, they're going to continue on getting out the sediment when they can, and that was planned in December, January, February. That may be pushed back, but that may work to our favor a little bit because we got 220,000 committed for sediment removal, and we requested $150,000 from the state that won't be decided on until mid-January, which will get almost all of the sediment if we get that grant provided to that. So, but that's where we're at with that. That's continuing on, and they're battling the water at Canyon Lake. But so.
Were they getting a bigger pipe, I read, or something, to divert? I thought you said something about the pipe that they originally put in wasn't handling it because of the extra water coming out of Pactola. And are they installing a larger one, or what's it?
Yeah, they're installing a larger pipe, and that's to get, hopefully the flows will get down and the main pipe will, it'll get to flows where the bypass can handle it. But they're putting in a temporary pipe, and that thing's huge,
Yeah.
to take it around the dam so they can continue working.
I think it's probably a good idea because Pactola is too full right now based on, if we get a runoff like we did last year, we have some problems again.
Yes, definitely.
So that's adding to the cost again?
To the city's cost. We're all set with our sediment removal money, so, and,
Did we get matching funds for all the amount we said we would contribute if it was matched?
yes, we did, and that was approved with the city council,
Good.
so.
And it's basically empty now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just got a trickle coming through it, so,
The money we put up has been matched.
yes. We put up 50,000
I
and
didn't know that.
Fly Fisherman put up 10,000, and the city matched 60,000, so that brought it to 220,000, because we had initially had 100,000. And then we requested another 150,000 from the state revolving fund, which it's my understanding that they put in money for this 15, 20 years ago when they did sediment removal then. So they got a precedent in approving that. And that goes through the Board of Water and Natural Resources. So trying to do a little lobbying with them and with some of their members to get approval on that. So we shall see how that continues. So that project's looking good. At least we got 220,000 to remove sediment. That's set in stone, so. Any other questions comments? All right, cooking along. The next item, the Spring Creek, actually what we're looking for with this is West Dakota's position on the Spring Creek 319 program. And what I thought I would do is just kind of lay a little bit of groundwork, and then I just kind of like to do a little round table on everybody's thoughts. There's a varied, or a vast history with the program with West Dakota and Spring Creek. We were initially in the program, and then it was decided to remove ourselves, and then we didn't pull funding, we just discontinued funding at a certain point, and then there was, we had an individual, and somebody's got to correct me, there's a working group, not a task force group, if I'm saying that right. So they got a work group that's working on the Spring Creek, and we had initially, Dan was to be, you were on that, or were planning to be on it?
I never sat on it.
You never sat on it?
Never got on it.
Okay, and Denise was going to meetings and representing us, and so there was, as those things worked out, I'm not really privy to the past history. I'm kind of to the point where I'd like to move forward and get back in the game. And where we're at now is I sent a letter to the chairman of the Pennington County Commission just asking that, we had a vested interest in the project and we would like to get back involved. I identified that Denise was on their working group, and that at one point Dan was elected by this board to be on that group, and they responded indicating that they would like Denise to remain on that working group, and I think that in a nutshell in the letter just basically asked us to give them a clear path on our thoughts on what we wanted to do. And so my recommendation to this board is to continue having Denise represent us on that working group, because that was the commission's recommendation. I myself would like to continue researching the controls that they're looking at and get involved with one of the projects in the future to improve Spring Creek's water quality. But with that said, I would like to just open it up to group to get everybody's ideas, and at some point I think we need to make a decision on where we're going. So I'll start off with Foster.
I think it's a good project, and like you, I think we have an interest in that. It's in our district, and they have some issues that need to be addressed, and I'm all in favor of participating in that project. I've got a pretty open mind, I guess, about who would attend to represent us, whether it's, you know, Denise or one of the board members. I'm open to suggestions on that.
Just for clarification, I sit on that board for RCAC, but I'm doing it as a community service. I don't log my time in any way, shape, or form being on that board. So right now, the workforce has X amount of board members. There's 3 landowners and 7, I believe, agencies represented. So unless the county wants to amend that, I am more than happy to continue to report on the advisory committee on what we've been discussing and going with that. But from reading the letter that was sent from the commissioners, it looks to me like they are just wanting to know, does West Dakota support the 319, regardless if you have somebody on the advisory work group or not. It was just, they were just unclear if we support the project or not support the project. And in your pamphlets, you'll see, I went back and found the original letter that Blaise Emerson had sent to the county commissioners. This project will continue the advancement of protecting vital water resources within our district. And then followed up in November 2011 minutes. It's still, the board still showed their support. Granted, they showed a financial contribution to that. But I think at this point, it would just be, do we want to support the county's efforts in the 319 or just walk away from it instead of the question, the back and forth, are we in or are we out?
Yeah. No,
I'll
that's
just
it.
leave now.
When you say support the efforts,
Where you
what
are.
do you mean specifically? What does that
Okay,
mean?
I'll see you
Just to
there.
attend the
Probably
meetings
take me
and,
10 minutes or so.
Not necessarily even attend the meetings, just to give the support that you recognize that the 319 is a valid project that protects and enhances our resources. And
express support.
Tim.
express support.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to note that Director Gasper's leaving. He said he's going to return. He has a doctor's appointment. Yeah, so. Any other comments, Foster?
No, other than, I support the project. I think it's a good project, and I certainly think that West Dakota should support it in any way that is appropriate.
Laverne?
I think we should definitely support the project.
Any thoughts on our representation?
I don't know how to resolve that question. Denise is our manager, you know, so, but I do recall that we sent Dan, so.
So I have a question, Mr. Chair. They're not really asking for like direct representation to sit on a board or anything at this point, are they?
No.
No, but I think it's an issue that we need to address on our end.
So it would be something, if we decided we would want that, we would make a request to them.
Correct.
Okay.
Orland?
Yes, I think we need to continue to support it. We're in it from the beginning. I kind of don't think we should be dropping the ball in the middle of the ball game. But, so I think we should continue.
Okay. Any thoughts on representation at all?
No, not particularly. I don't know, we have the manager on there. I think that she could handle it like we have in the past.
I think, the board should continue to support the 319 project, and as far as representation, I guess I don't have a real strong feeling. I think Denise's would be fine, or if the board wanted to choose one of the directors to represent, I think that would be fine too. I don't have a strong, one way or the other. We should have somebody who's involved, stays involved.
Okay.
I think we were in it once. That's why I was not on the board when he started, but for whatever reason they got out of it. I think we should get back in it, at least to know what's going on. And as far as the manager, I guess Denise has been doing it, so I don't see any reason why, unless somebody else wants to step up and do it. I'm open to anything though.
Dan?
Well, I'm gonna point out that we're all elected officials here, and we're supposed to be representing our districts, and that entire project runs through my district. And that was the reasoning for requesting to be put on the board in the first place, and for you guys voting to put me on. Now, I know you guys keep saying we should be continuing on this, but we're not on that working group anymore. We're not on it. We were replaced by RCAC. Okay? So the continuing is, we're not on it. I go to the meetings, quietly sit up there on a gag order, and just listen to what's going on. But as long as this working group does not have to follow open meetings laws, or refuses to follow open meetings laws, I'm gonna stay with my same position that if we wanna do, I believe in the concept of cleaning the creek up. The creek needs to be cleaned up. I don't think it's as important to clean that creek up as it is Rapid Creek. But since they've already dumped $1 million in it, you know, you can't just walk away. But we shouldn't be landscaping people's property. We shouldn't be taking their rock shop and having them line when right next door is the sawmill is probably doing more polluting currently on that creek than anything. So my approach is we should find a single project that we can support on that creek that we either gonna, that is not privately owned, and if we have to do it ourselves, fine. We do it ourselves. If we got the money, if we don't, then we go start begging. And clean that portion up. And I know some of you guys don't have a problem with giving taxpayer money to people to landscape their property, but I seriously have a problem with that. And yes, I have never not supported the project. I have continually spoke out, as they say in this letter. I have continually spoke out against the way they're going about it. So that's where I'm at. I think if we're going to do something, if we're all elected here, and like Tim has taken on Rapid Creek, but there's more of you guys that are living along Rapid Creek should be involved in that thing. You guys should form a committee and work that thing. We don't hire her to go to meetings for us so we can come in once every 2 months, get $100 and leave. And that's what I see going on over and over and over and over. And we're elected here to represent our districts, and I think we should start representing our districts. And that's why I requested to be put on that. That's why I was asked to be put on that, is because of my being so vocal about being put on this board, being so vocal about that project. And that's where I'm at on it. And I have never came down and said I don't want a clean creek. I don't like the way that it's being managed, because it's just, yeah, this guy signed up and, yeah, it looks good, and this guy signed up and, hey, there's two, septic system was a 35% rating, now let's fund that, you know, that, I couldn't believe that was a yes vote, a unanimous yes vote on the commission, I just couldn't believe it, 35%.
I'm not following you on that
Well, they
one.
have a scorecard, and that, these two septic systems, and Denise was very concerned about that a couple meetings back. Two septic systems rated at 35%, and they approved it, just to spend the money. One of the commissioners said, how much money is in the fund? This X dollars, okay, let's spend it.
On that, appreciate the comments and stuff. I think one thing that we're looking to as a board is trying to come to a consensus that we want to continue to support the program. And I think that sounded pretty unanimous across the board. How we go about doing that, you brought up some good points about, you know, on the technical aspect. When I read the report on what they were doing, when you call it landscaping, in my world, it's called best management practices, and it's designed to reduce the sediment loading, which carries the bacteria, which is the problem in the lake. And that's effective, and there's, you know, some other things that are effective, and we've talked about that. And if we can find a project that we can dive into, I think that's great. I think to get back in the game and sponsor something like that, I think that's definitely the route we want to go. And so, and then there's the
I would prefer
second.
that we are on the committee, because does anybody not agree with getting a project and just doing that project that's sitting on public lands? Is that a better deal than giving the money to private owners to, in my world, landscape their own property? So, I guess that's the question that needs to be thought about, and where we're gonna go with that, because I am not against the plan, I'm against the way it's being run.
Yeah, and I think that's the county's decision, and they took on the Spring Creek
But
319.
you mentioned
Can I
here
please
that
finish?
they mentioned
Let me
back
let me
there.
finish. It's the counties, and they went to the state, got the 319 funds, and got their sponsorship. They're managing it and they're running it. And if somebody doesn't agree with what they're doing, they can comment towards them. And they designed the work group, and they decided who's on it. If we would like to make a recommendation that either Denise or you's on it, I think we come to a point that we do a motion and decide that as a board. But we can decide to continue to go back and support some of their control projects, or if we want to do a different control project that we think is going to be beneficial to cleaning up the creek, we can do that. But I think that's where we're going towards, and so there's kind of three aspects there on what we can do. So, and I think we had some good discussions on that everybody feels that we need to be back in the game and support their thing, and if we don't agree with their controls, we put it together as a board. We look at the technical aspects of those, and we send it to them. And if we would like to see something else done, we send it to them. But it's ultimately their decision.
I agree.
Just like we're tackling the Rapid Creek 319, you know, that's going to be a lot of the decisions going to be made here. So that's their decision, and I respect their decisions. You know, whether I believe they're right or you believe they're wrong, that's still their decisions. So, but I think as our board, we need to come forward with a consensus on what we want to do to support it and how we want to go about it. And you brought up some good ideas. So, so I appreciate those comments.
The biggest concern I got is we are elected to do something to help our district and support our people. And it's coming to this meeting and saying, I don't care who runs it, and I don't care who goes, and I don't care who that, you know, I can live with that, or whatever. That's not right, in my opinion. I mean, it's time to step up or step out. And I think you stepping up for Rapid Creek is excellent, but there's other directors that have their area in the Rapid Creek that should be, you know, stepping up too. Because I really think Rapid Creek's more of a problem than Spring Creek ever is gonna be. So, but, you know, like I said, I don't have a problem with supporting the project, and I commend them for taking it on. I think they should have took on Rapid Creek, but they chose to take on Spring Creek, but they chose to take it on, so yeah, their decisions, but we are not helping this situation at all by just, you know, going helter-skelter in there.
I think that's what we're doing now, is we're trying to decide what we want to do and how we want to help them, and be very concise in what we do. So, any comments from the public? Yes, sir. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Mueller, incoming board member. I just need some clarification because I'm trying to get confused. I see the letter from Chairman Peterson. Basically, was Dan selected by this group to represent Western Dakota on that working group?
That is correct.
Okay. And the reasoning in this letter is a little bit of a stiff arm to Mr. Richer, in my opinion, on the reasons they gave to say we don't want to change anything. He's outspoken. Sometimes somebody in a different point of view can be the brakes on something that maybe needs to have a little bit of slowdown. And I'm not understanding why that was just accepted because he was rejected from that board or that group as a representative from this committee, from this board. And they have the power to do that if they've invited somebody from this board. Can you tell me, talk through the dynamics? And then the second question I may have, sir, is what Ms. Livingston's role is to RCAC versus WDD as a part of that working group.
I'll try to answer both those questions. Again, the Pennington County took on the Spring Creek 319 program, and they make their decisions on how that's ran and who they select on their board and then working group. So I think your question needs to be directed to them. We made a recommendation who we wanted, and they went there and didn't accept it. And one part of their comment is Denise was going, you know, this goes to answer your second question, she was going as a representative as us, representing that board, and ended up not having that represented, but they liked her because of her technical expertise. So they kept her on as Denise Livingston. So whether she's representing RCAC, and I don't believe she's representing us, but she's reporting back to us with the information from that meeting. Does that answer your?
I just noticed.
Okay.
And maybe I'll direct you for her, but
Okay.
does she have a vote on this advisory group as an active, or is she ex officio?
I'm going to direct that to her.
There's no vote.
The working group works as on, not really a consensus, we discuss the projects that are put before us, the applications that come before us, and then we provide our recommendations to the planning director. And he presents that to the county commissioners. So we have a say in it. It's not really a vote. It's basically a discussion, and this is our recommendation. So the working group puts forth a recommendation. And just for further clarification, when I stepped into this role, we mimicked the contract that Black Hills Council of Local Governments had. Black Hills Council of Local Governments had staff that represented West Dakota Water Development District. And at one time I worked for Black Hills Council, and when I was working for Black Hills Council, I was actually on the initial advisory group. So when I came on in this capacity, we mimicked the contract with Black Hills Council, and in that initial contract, it said that one of the functions of my position would be to represent West Dakota Water Development District at interested meetings, and specifically mentioned Spring Creek Advisory Committee. So then when I first initially started here, it was in about February of that year, that the county had requested entities submit names for the advisory group, who they want on the advisory group. I submitted my name based on that contract, the signed contract. And based on that, the county selected me to be on the advisory group. And just also from having the historic base, being on the board before, they just selected me. And so that's how I remained on the board.
So just personal comment, if I could.
Sure.
So they disregarded what this board did as a function, selecting a person to be representing the board. And now they want support. That's what I'm seeing.
I won't speak for them saying they want support. I think
I can't answer that, I'm just making a comment.
but I wanted to kind of clarify. I think where we're working at now is it's kind of consensus that we want to be involved in it because it's a water quality issue in our district, and we're trying to figure out the best way to approach it. And my other comment is they run the program and they make the decisions who's on their working group, and they make the decisions on the controls and the money they dish out, and that's their decision. We can provide recommendations and suggestions, or we can say, hey, maybe we want to go do this to help this out, and pay for it or then get funding. So I think that's where we're going. I think where I'd like to see us go is to get past the past and get on and do what we're supposed to do, what we're tasked with, and that's work on water quality in our district. And I see nothing in the past that's going to get us there unless we move forward. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
Ken Moss, incoming board member. I'll have to go along with Dan there. Those county commissioners are elected just like we are. They don't have somebody else standing in for them. Why should we have anybody standing in for us? Yes, it's quite nice that she goes out and gets information, which should be passed to the area director. And I'll go along with you and him about anybody that lives on Rapid Creek. If they're a director, they should be in on it. So if you want to put a committee on there, I'll even go on it. I draw water out of Rapid Creek. He does, and quite a few other people. Let's get that committee going, and we can take care of this as well as anybody. They're after us for funding. Let them justify their funding to us.
Okay. Just thank you, and congratulations on both of you guys coming onto the board. Again, the county has not asked us for funding. I think it's just this board feels that we need to be involved and figure out how we want to participate in that program, and whether it's commenting or whether it's funding, that'll be us. The county has not asked us for any funding since we discontinued funding. So, but I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
But I agree with your comments. I hope everybody on this board stays active, and whether it's Spring Creek or Rapid Creek, we all get involved. I've been beating the bandwagon, hitting council meetings and talking to state people and federal people, just all my contacts and my networks, trying to get whatever we can to improve our water quality. And
As long as they're citizens of the county, I see no problem.
yeah, definitely. Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Where do we go from here? No, I think there's a consensus that we want to get involved with one thing that's happening, and you guys, Jasper, and you made up a good point. There's going to be a new makeup of the board, and I don't think that we want to make a decision for that new board and have them change that starting in January. But I think it's good to start the discussion and flush things out and decide, and as the new board members come on, talk about how we want to move forward with this and how we roll. So I don't think we need any action right now. I just wanted to get this on the agenda and get people talking about it and seeing where everybody's at. So I'm not. Is that pretty good to wait
Sure.
as the new board rolls on?
Chairman Rogers?
Yeah.
I guess I'd have one thought or question here. I think, I agree with what you're saying there. I think we have a long history here with this project, with people attending and various things have transpired over the years. We pulled our funding, and then we've had these letters And they indicated how they thought Denise was a good person on the board at the time. But I think at this point, if we're interested obviously in the project. It's an important project in our district. We should indicate our support for it. I would be curious to ask them, the leadership of the 319 project, how this board can help. I guess I'd be curious at this point to hear what they would say to us, how we can best help them.
I think that's a good question. I think when the chairman sent his letter back to us, he was a little confused on whether we were supporting or not supporting. But I think there's a consensus that we want to support, and I think that's and he's sitting here, and I think he's hearing what we're saying, and so at some point I think we can see if the working group has some ideas, or we can come up with some of our own too. So
I think that would
definitely.
that would help to sort of mend some fences and move forward and get past the past, as you put it.
Yes, definitely. So, no, thanks for the comments.
Mr. Chairman, one correction. We did not cut funding. We just let it expire. We did not cut funding.
Yeah, I think it's the semantics. It's just
Keep hearing that
yeah.
around here that we cut the funding, we cut the funding. We never cut the funding. We just let the funding expire. We just chose not to refund again.
Right. It's
So we stopped.
Didn't cut the funding.
stop money.
Just
Yeah.
let it expire.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody else on that? I don't think we need any action today. So, but I think we need to continue this.
I
And
put it on the January.
okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right. The next item is Dakota Water Watch flyers. Dan, you're on this one. Can you kind of fill us in on what you're thinking?
I'm not so sure that flyers are the way to go. I think we need to go with PSAs. Radio stations, television stations, whoever let us get on with a public service announcement. And because I don't know about you, but I don't know how many flyers I threw away during this election season without even looking, just. So, I think if we go with a flyer again, we got the same, I think a lot of people are just up to here with flyers and they just wanna go. And good people that probably wanna help. And I think Water Watch is the way to go because it brings the community in. Brings people from the community in who can talk to their neighbors and that, and word of mouth is the best way to spread anything. And so I would like to see us try to go with PSAs to the radio stations and the television stations and about Dakota Water Watch, what it is, who to contact, and what we are trying to accomplish with it. And, whatever 30 seconds we can get in there to put that in. And if we had to pay a professional speed reader, a couple $100 to get everything in 30 seconds, I think it would be worth the effort and be printing flyers in that. The other thing is I'm waiting for a call from Mark Ruttershot from the fire department, Rapid City Fire Department, on if they're gonna come on board with their setting up a testing station for us. So now people would be able to come into the fire department at any time of the day and drop their samples off to be recorded. So I'm waiting on a phone call for that. And I went down 44 and I seen the Rapid Valley Fire Department and it clicked in my head, I need to go talk to their fire chief about the same thing, if they would be willing to have those testing facilities available so people in the valley could just drop them off right there. So, and I apologize for not even thinking about the valley until I just drove by it and I thought, wow, there's a fire station over in my head. So I guess I need to talk to Rapid Valley also on that. But I just think, and I don't want anybody to make a decision just yet, I think, I'm leaning towards PSAs, because I think word of mouth works better than flyers at this point. I mean, people are just up to hear the flyers.
I think that's an approach. I think your PSA is a good idea, and the flyers, it's always good to have flyers there handy for when you finally meet them and give it to them. So maybe we could look at both. But one thing that I wanted to talk about, again, not fast forwarding on the strategic planning, I got Water Watch on there, and when you brought up one of the main things, I didn't have them on my list. I wish I would have thought about it when I was putting this together, is the organization and where people need to go. So first you set the things in place. Where do you get the kids?
Right.
Where do you take them? And then the next step is the data's going to East Dakota, and they're compiling it, and how do we get that data back to assess it and see if the program's working good, to continue sponsoring it. But no, I think you're spot on with PSAs, that would get it out there to everybody on the radio and the TV. So no, it's a good idea.
Just something to think of. I
Yeah.
don't want a motion or anything.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea.
And there is a line item in the budget for advertising and such like that, so.
The Channel 21 has a group of young reporters that go out in the mornings and do stuff like that, community services. They'd probably come out and film a segment of doing the Water Watch. I'm sure that they like that kind of stuff, so it'd be something to look at.
Yeah.
They don't charge, be free, probably, and get a good, I hire people watch them in the morning.
Could you do a 2-minute Reader's Digest for the people out there to explain, for the public out here to explain what Water Watch is? I'm not sure if everybody knows what Water Watch is.
Sure. Dakota Water Watch is a program that was started on the eastern side of the state. It's based off the fact that we have very little information about our recreational water bodies, our streams and rivers and lakes. And so Dakota Water Watch is a program that uses citizen volunteers to go out and do baseline monitoring of our water systems. And the idea is that let's say Mr. Mueller likes to go to a section on Rapid Creek north of town, of 44, and he goes there and fishes. Well, while he's spending time there, ideally at least once a month, he'll take a collection of samples. It takes 10 minutes to do this sampling, and he fills out a sheet of paper and sends it off to East Dakota Water Development District. And then we can build a baseline of the water quality throughout the state. And this has been primarily on the eastern side of the state. A couple of years ago, we brought the program to the western side of the state. It's kind of slow taking off. We have bacteria monitoring in Hill City and in Spearfish. We don't have anything in Rapid City. So a lot of people that don't collect the bacteria monitoring if they're doing it close to Rapid City, which is really kind of needed, actually, so we can get a better picture. So, but it's a really great program. It's been really successful on the eastern side of the state. We've been running it for 2 years now, and so that's about it. The monitoring is like the temperature, all of the testing kit is provided free of charge, and it tests chloride, nitrates, nitrites, pH, temperature, and turbidity. So
And we sponsor, is it 5,000?
we budgeted $5,000 for it, and that was the first year. And I'm expecting another bill for this year's supplies and our portion of it before next meeting.
Is that mainly for the sampling equipment? Is that your understanding?
It's mainly for the sampling equipment,
Okay.
yes. So, or just for the whole program. People can get reimbursed for their travel if they desire, or for the postage to send the information to East Dakota. So we try to keep the cost minimal to the citizens, but we just are asking for their time for the project. So, and I didn't know what was expected of me on this agenda item, so I did throw together a brochure. I think it would be ideal to have some kind of brochure, and if you'll see.
Well, I guess what I mean is not mailing them out.
No, I'm not mailing them out, but I think if we have some kind of a brochure or flyer, what is out there is all East Dakota related, and so we really need to have something that is more West Dakota, brings West Dakota into it. But I think maybe we could sweet talk Janet Carter from USDS to let us put these in the packet for the hydrology conference, which would be an ideal time of year to start getting people rounded up for that. And so, so like I said, this is just a very rough draft, and I'd be more than happy to work with you, Director Richard, in putting just a flyer together. It doesn't even have to be this format, just more of an informational type.
You know I'll comment.
Hmm?
You know that I'll comment.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. So. But anyway, and 'cause we have talked about bacteria labs being needed, and I think this is a great way to kind of host job wanted. Or
Any comments or questions from the public on what that program is and why we're involved? Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Jeanette Durlow. Am I to understand that you have water, we're looking for water quality and we want the public involved in this? And we're trying to get the word out? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, what the program's designed to do is get the public involved, and that also benefits the assessment of water quality throughout the state. And so you got people like the Boys Club and schools and groups, and then fishermen's and Eastern South Dakota going out, and they're taking samples of the water, so that gets documented and put into a database, so that the analysis can be done. And so that it's the same thing out here in Western Dakota. We're doing the same thing. We initiated the program about 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
So we get people going out and sampling, and we provide the sample kits, and they get the samples, bring it in, that gets analyzed, and then put into the database.
And we already have that organized and it's already running.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already running and running well.
No,
We're just getting it started on this side of the state. So.
run.
And all we're wanting to do at this point is just get the word out, just do some advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, advertising works well in more than one media. For instance, it's hard for me to put a PSA on my refrigerator magnet. It doesn't work for me. But I like the idea of, for those who don't do that, PSAs, and there's many other ways, you know. And any time that you can get the public involved is always a very good time. But I think about where I'd want to do, how I'd want to do that in depth. Because so often we don't reach the people that we want to, and we think it's such a good idea.
Right.
But maybe not if we didn't know the research that we need to do to go for it. It was just all, thank you.
No, definitely. And I think Denise came up with some ideas. Yeah, you get a lot of water people at the conference that's attended, and those people would be interested, and then they would pass it on word by mouth, and the PSAs and the pamphlets. You know, we can do quite a few things inexpensively to get it out. So, no,
And just
thanks.
for clarification, the sampling season is only from April to October. We don't expect people to go out there in the middle of winter to do sampling.
Thanks for your comments.
Sliding on the ice.
Any other comments from the public or the board members? All right, we'll move on with that. And it kind of melds into some of the things we talked about. Is the next item on new business. We moved the Western South Dakota Hydrology Conference up, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, but at the last meeting I said that I would put together kind of a strategic planning concept for the board to look at, and I'll pass out to the members out here, and especially our new board members that are coming on. But the idea was to get an idea of all the water quality issues that we got out there sitting that we got to address, or that we should address, or we should be involved with. And the I kind of threw together a strategic planning. So with that said, I'm going to pass this out, and I'll give it out to some of the clubs, and I'll start explaining what it is briefly. And as I'm handing it out, you can, oops, that's not the one you want. These are going to be very familiar to everybody, but maybe not to all. I don't know that I got enough for everybody, so just have I'm going to just run through the topics, and what the concept is that this gives the board something to look at. It's not something we're going to vote on. It just gives us something that water quality issues that we need to be thinking about and that we need to address. And then it'll also give if we kind of formulate this and we agree that these are things we need to address, it's also good for the public to see what we're addressing, as well as entities like the South Dakota School of Mines, the U.S. Geological Survey, to see what we're focusing on, what we're thinking, that they can come in and they can help us and come up with some concepts and sampling or, other thoughts on the thing. But the first item on there is build a good partnership with the city and the county as well as other entities. The second item is Rapid Creek 319. I think we talked about that with what we're calling the Rapid Creek Clean Water Initiative. Spring Creek 319, we talked about that today. The Canyon Lake sediment removal. What we didn't talk about today was Rapid Creek Didimo, the problem between Pactola and Canyon Lake that we're having there. There's been a significant reduction in fish production and fish life in that thing that there's a lot of fishermen that have a problem with that. It's also a tourism thing that we should be concerned about, and the quality of the water. Water Watch, we talked about that, and I put in a category USGS and School of Mines Studies. But kind of going back to the top, building the partnership with the city and the county, there's been some contention in the past with the county, and we haven't done a lot with the city, and but those are two entities we need to work with, and we got to create a good working relationship with them. We got to agree to disagree sometimes, and we got to move forward. And but in order to get anything done, is we need to be able to work with both of those entities, and come up with a agreeable way to address the Rapid Creek and Spring Creek 319 projects, and also any other future project that we've got. With the Rapid Creek 319 project, we're just diving into that. We sponsored this. We're sponsoring it right now with the state to move forward with it. We got a contractor in place to look at kind of get things set up, do some education, and some building of partners to try to get that built in, and then eventually build a request for proposal. So that's on our plate, and we need to, that's definitely on our planning. And it's a big one because Rapid Creek has been impaired since 1989 for bacteria. That's or 1998, 98, and that's a long time for nobody to take any action on Rapid Creek. And it's impaired from Canyon Lake all the way down to Cheyenne River for bacteria. Whether we can fix it or not, we got to look at it. We got to see what we can do, and address that. And it can't just be West Dakota. It's got to be the city. It's got to be the county. It's got to be the people in Computer, the ranchers, farmers. It's everybody. So we just got to continue to work on it, get educated, and come up with a good plan. Just plain and simple. The Spring Creek 319 project, we talked about that. I'm not going to hash on that one or beat on that one, but we got to continue moving forward with looking at that and helping out and sponsoring that. Canyon Lake sediment removal, I think we've done a very good job as a board sponsoring that. We set aside $10,000 for 10 years. We were the only group that stepped up to get sediment removal. Then we went out and beat the bandwagon with the city and with the state to get more funding to get that properly cleaned out. They were going to actually just take our $100,000 and clean out a small portion of it. We needed $400,000, and we're almost there. So that was a hats off to our board. We did a good job. the Rapid Creek Didymo project. We're sponsoring, studies to look at that. I hope I've been clear to the School of Mines and anybody that's looking at doing studies on Didymo. I would like to see come to us with an end goal of a resolution. We're talking about looking at small aspects of it, and I would like to see something with the thought of fixing the problem and not just continuing to study. I would like to see a stair step to an answer to fix that problem. It's a lot of concern to a lot of people. Water Watch, we talked about that. I think we need to get to a point where we're very well organized with our Water Watch, where they take samples, where the kits can be found, and how we're going to get results back and how we're going to assess it. So, and I think it's a good program, gets everybody involved. And USGS and School of Mines, I think we need to let them know when they come to us for funds, they need to know that we're accountable to the taxpayers, and we're looking for a benefit for our water quality, and we're looking for a product for our taxpayers. And we've had 2 very good projects with that. One we're working on now, the regional model. That to me is going to be a benefit to assess how our water quality is, and we need to continue on sponsoring that and going forward. We had the Hill City study. We did a study, and it was beneficial to the academia. They got information for future studies, but in the same token, we provided the homeowner with the water quality of their well. That was huge. To me, it was, and there was a lot of people in that, so that was good. But I hope as a board we advocate that we just don't want to do a study to study. We want to do a study for an end result. And I'm sure academia is thinking that way, but I think we need to both get on that same wavelength and think that way. But again, I just wanted to put this together to show, the issues out there, so everybody was kind of getting on the same wavelength and the same path. But with that said, I'm not asking for any action today. I think we're going to carry this on, and it's going to be kind of a working little document for us to play with. So I'll open it up to the board and then the public for any comments. If there are any.
Did you make enough copies for the new board members?
I shipped them out, and hopefully, if not, I can get it for them too. So.
Right.
For the new board members that are here, if you could give me your email and contact information before you leave, I would really appreciate that. And then I can email anything out at my request.
But as you guys are thinking to comment, and if there's no comment, what I wanted to do is just kind of start forging together where we want to go with these things, and so we kind of have a direction on where we're going to, as we take funds we get from the taxpayers and we attack these and address them. So, any
I'd
comments?
just like to say on these 319 projects, I see what they're trying to do. My problem with a lot of these is when I looked over the cost for the Spring Creek project, and I saw the cost that they were getting for a load of gravel and for fencing and stuff. It's just so ridiculous what the people are getting charged, tons and tons of getting paid for this stuff. I know I worked on a project with the agricultural department to put a fence in. Well, you stick half that money in your back pocket because of the cost of it. It doesn't really cost you, $100 a foot to put a fence in, but the guys get the money and they put it in their back pocket.
Correct.
And that's my concern about the 319 projects, is I like your idea of doing our own project, but we control the cost of it. We know what it's gonna cost to go out there and fix this piece of river or thing, and do it in a reasonable way, not in, that's my only objection to the 319s, is the cost of them. I mean, so a load of gravel has a rock in it that's not the exact same color, but they gotta go pick out those colored rocks that don't match, and that just, it doesn't make sense to me. But otherwise, I support what they're trying to do. It's just that I don't like the way the cost of these things is going. But I know they have to do it. It's the way that they work, I guess, bureaucracy. But if there was a better way around it, I would sure like to try it.
Yeah. No. It's expensive.
Well, it's not expensive. It's the way they do it is expensive. Yeah. I mean, if you gave me $1 million to fix a mile of creek and give them $1 million they wouldn't get 10 foot of the creek done, the cost of the way they do it. Sometimes the public can do it a lot better than the bureaucracy, but I don't know how to get around that. I just don't. And get government money to do it with, because they control that. You have to do it the way they want you to do it, even though it's just awful expensive. But I do support what they're trying to do, to clean it up.
Chairman Roberts, just a comment. Well, number one, I'd like to thank you for doing this. I think that's extremely wise to be planning and looking ahead so that we can plan our route rather than just reacting to things. We can be proactive and move forward. And I agree with what you have on here. And one other thing that we might consider adding is thinking about possible ways or the advantages of expanding the water development district in the future, which we've talked about a number of times in the past, and it would be really beneficial to the water resource if it were a little larger than the current size of the district.
Yeah, I'll get that on there. That's something that we've talked about and needs to be on there, so. All right.
Thank you, though, Bert.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent.
Welcome. Any other comments, public? Anything? All right, again, we don't need to take any action on this. This is just kind of throw out there to identify the issues we got to deal with, and we'll continue on with it. And at some point, if we want to take action on this and refine it to kind of have it as our working document to see issues that we got to address, then we will. Or if not, it was a good exercise for me. So, all right. Manager's report, Denise.
So we talked about many of the things that shows the meetings that I had attended. One of the things that came up is after our last meeting, I had an appointment with our insurance company. They like to do a kind of a check-in once every 3 years or whatever. So they stopped by to talk about our program and interview us to see where we can improve our potential liability. So you'll see the safety benefits letter. They had sent it to the wrong address, so we just got it recently. It just came in last week, and we have 60 days to respond. So if you look at the, I will have this on next month's agenda so we can better address it. But basically, there are improvement recommendations. Some of those, one of the big ones was that we have policy in place. They actually recommended that before we implement any policy or ordinances that it should be reviewed by our legal counsel. So that just brings up the question of we should probably have legal counsel. And then also that our directors need to review the policy, read the policy, and then have a sign-off sheet that they have read the policy. And then also that board members, especially newly elected board members, should receive some kind of orientation training and board member training. And I haven't researched this yet, but they said that the municipal league generally has something like that.
Did you ask them for a sample?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you ask them for a sample?
They
What
do.
board member training is?
So they just recommended checking with the municipal league, and I know RCAC has done board member training. We've done it for utility boards. So, but anyway, it's just something that I'll look into and see if I can find the municipal league information on that. And then I had a follow-up meeting with the Director of Member Services. So it used to be that South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance contracted out to Hagen Benefits to manage our project, or manage our portfolio rather. And this past year, they've actually decided to get rid of the middleman and take everything in-house and do everything in-house. So it's not reflected this year, but I think next year we will see a slight reduction in our insurance because they took out Hagen benefits and doing everything, so they're hoping to realize a savings for us. And that generally comes up in August.
What are Hagen benefits?
I'm sorry, what?
What are Hagen benefits?
Hagen Benefits was actually contracted by South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance to manage our portfolio, to manage portfolios, but they got away with the middleman, and they're doing everything themselves.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then I listed the projects that we have in our area. Cedar Gulch too, this is something that's been kind of ongoing, and we provided some technical assistance to them and everything. And it was really kind of a headache and heartache for the state because there was really no, what the situation was a small community, small public water system that is out of EPA compliance. They really don't have the financial resources. The well is on a private lot, and the property owner decided that, you know, they can have free water, blah, blah, blah. Well, when the pump ran out, he's like, okay, who's going to pay for this water system? So anyway, so now they share the cost of the well, but the water is out of compliance. And they think it's probably about a $50,000 to $100,000 fix, but in order to get the project funded, there just was not a really clear mechanism to help these people out. So at the Board of Water and Natural Resource meeting last week, was it? Weeks ago? Anyway, one of the things that they are doing, they're mimicking a program out of, I believe it's Maine. They're taking some of the SRF funding and they're turning it into kind of, I don't want to say like an emergency fund, but the ability to give a very short loan or grant dollars to do these small micro projects, and they don't have to go through the state water planning process and this long drawn out process. So Cedar Gulch is kind of a ideal child to see how this project will work and how it will benefit these small systems that just don't have enough income to do a project all on their own and don't really fit into the state water planning process. So, and then also on
Just a quick question on Cedar Gulch. Where's that located?
Cedar Gulch is located about a mile past the airport. If you keep going east and then you turn south on, let's say Brandon Road or something like that.
Okay, yeah, just general
But
direction. Thanks.
it's-
Yeah, okay.
It's east. I believe that is Director Cook's area. So then the other thing that, a couple other things that I just wanted to highlight here. Okay, so Chairman Rogers received a letter from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Did everybody get a copy of that? It just was passed around. Did you have that? Okay. Everybody have that? Did you get it? Okay. So this was, I'm going off my memory here. Last September, the board agreed to sponsor the USGS groundwater flow model to the tune of $10,000 a year for 4 years. The following March, the board elected to be the project sponsors and allowing me the time to work with USGS, try to gather local support, and submit the required funding applications for the swarms or the state water plan. And so we did that. We submitted everything by October 1st. At the Board of Water and Natural Resource meeting, two things happened. They rejected the state water plan application because they said that it was basically already on the swarms. So you can't have an application you can't have a project both on the state water plan and the state water resource management system at the same time. So they took that off. And then what they did, I think our swarms application was for 104,000. What they did is instead of granting the Black Hills area regional groundwater flow model, they decided to broaden it to a statewide project. Now, they're not funding it, it's just a set-aside for that. So now we'll need to go after this set-aside money. But it's so, any entity that feels that they need to study, do a groundwater modeling project, they have the revenue. So it's not just Black Hills specific, it's statewide specific. So that is on there. So it's just a step towards not only beneficial for us, but also for other possible entities.
Question, is that a one-time funding or annual, or how's it?
So it's on the swarms until legislation decides to kick it off, says it's no longer needed, or we put a request to have it. Well, I don't think we can request it now because it's not just West Dakota, it's statewide. So it's on there until
Annually?
legislature takes it off.
Annually?
It doesn't, right now they just have 250,000 put towards it, but they can review it. We can submit another application next year. If we get 104,000, we can submit another application for 200,000, and then they'll say, well, we need to put more money towards that. So it's on an as-needed basis, I guess. Best to answer your question.
Denise, would it be accurate to clarify, I think that's for statewide hydrologic studies, not necessarily specific to groundwater flow models and the like?
Correct. Thank you. I should have deferred for better clarification from USGS. Thank you. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is a letter in your packet from Legislative Research Council. This is a couple of legislative items. This is a link to a couple legislative items that are coming up regarding the Regional Watershed Advisory Task Force. And this is actually a possibility for expansion, the watershed. This is mainly an issue on the eastern side of the state with drainage issues. But they're talking about creating watershed districts. And instead of creating another district over in the western part of the state, and I had this dialogue with Brian Gosh at one time, and they said, why would you create another entity and kind of shadow one entity instead of taking an existing entity and expanding it? So it's a possibility for us to work on expansion. If these watershed districts are created, then it could just possibly be an avenue to expand the scope of West Dakota to include our current mission and the watershed district. So that's just something that is out there. I have yet to go through but that's from previous dialogue with other parties. Also, you'll see minutes from other entities that we support, Black Hills Regional Multiple Use Coalition and Black Hills RC&D. One thing I'd like to point out is Black Hills Regional Multiple Use Coalition has written, I believe I emailed this out to the directors last month or in September, and this is their take on the proposed Clean Water Act rule from EPA. All for your reading pleasure. So, and also I went to a meeting for the South Dakota Walleye Unlimited. and this was in October, and while I was there, a gentleman talked on the statewide fisheries and aquatic resource 2014-2018 strategic plan, and I'm like, hey, West Dakota should at least be aware of that, so that is in your board packet.
What's the connection, Denise?
The statewide fisheries, because they're very interested in protecting water quality for fisheries. Not just walleye, but
All fisheries?
all fisheries. So,
I heard something where they're going to try to combine, is that right?
I'm sorry, what?
I heard something where they're going to try to combine, is that correct?
Combine what?
The walleye guys and the fly fisher guys?
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know.
You heard that too? I heard that someplace, where they're gonna try
Oh,
to
that would be,
go into one organization,
okay. I didn't
more
hear.
horsepower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I think that's all I really have.
All right, any questions for Denise on her report? Just a quick question on the survey. Do we need to do anything on the survey? Or is that just, you answered it and,
The survey, oh, the insurance?
yeah,
I need to go through it because we do need to, say the date that we plan on completing it, our target date, and we do have to respond within 60 days. But like I said, they sent it to the wrong address, it never got to us, and so they emailed it to me last week, and so we have 60 days from the time. So, I will go through and fill this out and present it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Just didn't have time
all right.
to do it.
Thank you very much. Any, I guess no questions for Denise. Next items from directors. Anything from directors?
I got one request.
Sure.
Could Denise put a package together for each of the oncoming members?
I am working on the director
Okay.
package. I sent out letters. Hopefully I got all I went online and tried to find you. And Ken, did you get a letter from me last week?
Yes.
Okay,
And Mike's.
okay. So, anyway, so I did send out a letter. I will be putting a packet together and getting everybody. But I actually, in the letter, I would really like to sit down and take some time to visit with you. Jeanette and I are going to visit, but I just,
And you might want to take another look at Mike's address there. He sent both of the packets to me.
oh,
But I
okay.
assured that he ended up with one.
Okay. Creative management.
What all you throwing in the package?
Well, I was going to do the policies, and I'll print that off, and for each of the directors' policies, the bylaws. I'd like to, actually, I'd like to just sit down and talk about the projects that we are doing in more detail, if you have any questions. And, but otherwise, I can put the packet together, but.
You may want to make a copy of the state regulations with the water districts. It's not that long, so that would be good to throw in there too.
I believe as long as you can give us about a week's notice. My calendar is always jam-packed, and I know Mike's is too. Give us about a week there, we can get together with you.
Actually, I will work at whatever's convenient for you. So I have a pretty flexible schedule. So we can talk, but
Okay, I've got
like I
you.
said, if you just give me your email and phone number, and we can start corresponding that way, that'd be great.
Sounds good. I'll give you my card, and I've got Mike's card here for you too. Just
Thank you.
nail me with an email, and I'll give me an email to go back to you with, and we'll set.
Perfect. That would be great.
Did you email them the minutes from like the last year?
Actually, I did send some of the minutes from the past year out as well, so.
Yeah, we received, was it here, was it 6?
All right, anything else from directors? All right. Okay. I just had one item. Do we do officers in December or January?
January.
January. Okay, just a note to everybody, think about officer positions, and I think we have some that are going away, and If you want new ones, you can always do that as well. Items from the public. Give you too much today? Today was actually short.
That's it. I look forward to working with you, and I know Mike does, and Mr. Earl over there. I'm sure she does also.
All right. It's
Until we get our feet wet in the water, then.
definitely.
Motion to adjourn.
That is up next. There's a motion for adjournment.
Second.
2 seconds.
I did.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Good to see you there.
When's the next meeting?